He sang "Someday We'll All Be Free," but Donny Hathaway never got to reach that freedom himself. By 33, the man behind This Christmas and those legendary Roberta Flack duets was gone. And what happened before that final night still hurts.
This Christmas, and as we trim the
Donny Hathaway did not sound like a man chasing fame. He sounded like a man trying to leave evidence.
tree, how much fun it's gonna be together.
Evidence that he had been here. Evidence that he had felt too much. Evidence that one voice could carry joy, pain, church, memory, and madness at the same time.
Someday we'll all be free.
By the late 1970s, people knew the songs. They knew Where Is the Love. They knew The Closer I Get to You. They knew This Christmas. They knew that when Donny sat at a piano, the room changed.
Little ghetto boy.
But most people did not know that behind one of the most beautiful voices in soul music, there was a private war happening in silence. And by the time the world finally started calling Donny Hathaway a genius, the man behind the voice was already slipping away.
You sound kinds of madness to the
Before the hotel room, before the headlines, before the fall that shocked the music world, there was a little boy in St. Louis with a piano in front of him and something ancient in his voice.
little ghetto boy.
Donny Edward Hathaway was born in Chicago in 1945, but his story really began in the Carr Square neighborhood of St. Louis. He was raised by his grandmother, Martha Pitts, a gospel singer who recognized early that this child was not ordinary.
So much pain and misery.
Donny was not just humming melodies. He was absorbing them. He was learning sorrow and praise before he was old enough to explain either one.
Little ghetto boy, your daddy.
Church was his first stage. Not the glamorous stage, the real stage. A room full of people who could tell the difference between someone performing and someone testifying. And Donny could testify.
Was blown away.
He sang in church. He studied piano. He learned classical music. He learned gospel. He learned how sound could rise from the body like prayer and still be disciplined enough to sit inside an arrangement. That is what made him different.
He robbed that grocery store.
By the time he reached Howard University in the 1960s, he was already carrying church roots, classical training, jazz curiosity, and a hunger to build something larger than a hit record.
Put your hand in the hand.
Howard was not just a school for Donny. It was a crossroads. There he met people who would shape the rest of his life. Roberta Flack, Leroy Hudson, and Rick Powell.
Every time I look,
Roberta would later blend with him, like fate. Hudson would help him write one of his first defining songs. Powell would become part of the sound around Donny's early work. Even in rooms full of gifted people, Donny stood out.
I wanna tremble when I read.
Not because he was loud, because he was complete. He could write. He could arrange. He could produce. He could play. He could sing. Real talk. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe. We are not just counting hits here. We are bringing back the names, the voices, and the stories the industry left behind. After Howard, Donny entered the music business through the side door, behind the scenes. In Chicago, he worked as an arranger, songwriter, producer, and session musician.
You and I profess to be, but it causes me shame.
He became connected to Curtis Mayfield's Curtom Records and worked around giants. Aretha Franklin, the Staple Singers, Jerry Butler, the Impressions. But here's where the story changes.
To know that man is not what he should be.
The same gifts that made Donny valuable behind the scenes were too powerful to stay behind the scenes forever. In 1969, he signed to Atco, connected to Atlantic Records.
Still the water.
The door opened, but what waited on the other side would cost more than anyone knew. His first major statement was the ghetto. And that song did not sound like a regular debut single. It sounded like a street corner,
Your love has captured me.
a block party, a warning, a memory. When his debut album, Everything is Everything, arrived in 1970, the title felt like a mission statement.
Over and over again.
Donny was not trying to separate sacred from secular, high art from street feeling, politics from melody. To him, everything belonged in the music. Then came this Christmas. Today, people hear it and think of joy, family, warm lights, food on the table.
Try to tell myself that we
But when Donny released it in 1970, it was more than a seasonal record. It was a black Christmas record that did not ask permission to be warm, romantic, stylish, and soulful. It gave R&B its own holiday fireplace.
could never be more than friends.
And that is what makes the song almost painful now. Because every December, Donny Hathaway returns. His voice comes back through speakers in malls, kitchens, cars, and family gatherings. But the man himself never got to grow old inside the tradition he created.
And all the while inside I knew it was real.
By 1971, Donny released his self-titled album. And on that record was a performance that still feels too intimate to touch. A Song for You. Leon Russell wrote it. Many singers have covered it. But Donny made it sound like a confession pulled from the bottom of a man's life.
I've waited, I've been you.
He does not just sing the song, he surrenders to it. That is why Donny's version became bigger than a cover. It felt personal even when the words were not his. Then came Donny Hathaway Live. The live record sounded like church without a pulpit. For a moment, it looked like nothing could stop him. But success was not arriving alone. Pressure came with it. Expectation came with it. And inside Donny, something was beginning to shift. By the early 1970s, he had reunited musically with Roberta Flack. Their voices together were almost unfair. Roberta had calm, elegance, control. Donny had warmth, depth, and ache. Together, they did not sound like two stars competing. They sounded like two old souls recognizing each other across a room. Their 1972 duet album became a major success. And Where Is the Love crossed over in a way that pushed Donny into the broader pop conversation. The song won a Grammy and helped turn the Flack-Hathaway pairing into one of the most beloved duos of the decade. The public heard romance, but the deeper story was trust. Roberta and Donny had known each other since Howard. They did not sound like strangers placed together by a label. They sounded like musicians who understood how to leave space for one another. And for Donny, that success should have been a new beginning. But the success came with a price. The bigger his name became, the harder it became to hide what was happening privately. According to accounts from people close to him, Donny began suffering serious mental health struggles in the 1970s. Reports describe depression, paranoia, hospitalizations, and symptoms later associated with paranoid schizophrenia. The industry knew how to sell pain. It did not always know how to care for the person carrying it. A man could sing heartbreak beautifully and be rewarded for it. And Donny's music begins to sound different when you understand what he was fighting. Someday We'll All Be Free was released in 1973 on Extension of a Man. That title alone feels like Donny explaining himself. Not a product, not a voice for hire. A man reaching beyond what his body could hold. The song was written by Donny with lyrics by Edward Howard, and over time it became bigger than its original setting. Many people hear it as a freedom anthem, a song of survival, a promise to Black America. And it is all of that. But it also feels deeply personal. When Donny sings it, he does not sound like he is standing on the other side of pain. He sounds like he is trying to believe he can get there. The music floats, The chords rise like sunlight. The vocal is tender, almost fragile in places. But underneath the beauty, there is a question. Will he make it? That is why the song still hurts. It is hope sung by someone who needed hope desperately. After Extension of a Man, Donny's solo studio output slowed. The man who had seemed unstoppable became harder to see. His public performances and recording career were interrupted by illness and treatment. And that is one of the cruelest parts of this story. Donny Hathaway was not out of ideas. He was not washed up. He was not creatively empty. He was not a man whose gift had run dry. He was a man battling something that did not care how gifted he was. Then, in 1978, the world heard him again in a way that felt like a miracle. Roberta Flack released The Closer I Get to You with Donny Hathaway. And suddenly, his voice was back on the radio. The song became a major hit. It reached #1 on the R&B chart and climbed to #2 on the pop chart. But that is what makes the ending so devastating, because the comeback was real. The opportunity was real. The sessions for another Roberta and Donny duet project began. And it looked like the story might turn. Sometimes destiny gives a person one more doorway, but not every doorway leads out. In January 1979, Donny was in New York working on new music with Roberta Flack and other musicians. Among the songs connected to those sessions were Back Together Again and You Are My Heaven. According to reports, on January 13, 1979, Donny was in a recording session when his behavior became deeply troubling. Accounts say he was still able to sing. And you were gonna say goodbye. Still able to sound like Donny Hathaway, but mentally he appeared to be in crisis. The session was stopped. That detail is chilling. The voice was still working. The gift was still intact, but the man was in danger. What if you really didn't mean it? Later that night, Donny returned to his room at the Essex House Hotel in New York. He was 33 years old. Hours later, he was found dead after falling from his 15th floor room. Authorities ruled his death a suicide. Why did you have to lie? Reports noted that the room was locked from the inside and that investigators found no evidence of a struggle. Friends were stunned. Roberta Flack was devastated. Fans were confused. And soul music lost one of its most brilliant voices before the world had even finished understanding him. The tragedy was not just that Donny Hathaway died young. This love I know. It was that he died at the edge of a possible return. That is what makes his story one of the saddest in 70s soul. Not just the death, the timing, the almost, the comeback that turned into a farewell. I'll never let you go. In 1980, Roberta Flack released Roberta Flack featuring Donny Hathaway, using the recordings they had completed. The album carried his voice forward after he was gone. You Are My Heaven no longer sounded like just a duet. It sounded like a goodbye nobody knew they were recording. And Back Together Again became almost unbearable in its irony. Because they were not back together. Not really. Only the voices were. Still, Donny Hathaway did not disappear. That is the strange power of true soul music. The industry can move on. Charts can change. Radio can chase new sounds. But a voice like Donny's does not stay buried. Take a good look at yourself. It keeps finding people. Every generation seems to rediscover him in a different way. Some find him through this Christmas. Some through A Song for You. Some through the Roberta Flack duets. Some through Someday We'll All Be Free. But it causes me shame to know that man. Some through Lala Hathaway, his daughter, who carried the family's musical brilliance into her own career. Part of it is timing. Part of it is illness. Part of it is an industry that did not know how to protect fragile genius. Part of it is that Donny's music was too deep to be treated like simple entertainment. Not what he should be. Pain did not make Donny Hathaway a genius. He was already a genius. Pain shaped some of what came through him, but it should not be romanticized. Mental illness is not a mystery aesthetic. It is not a tragic accessory. It is not something to turn into legend while forgetting the person.
Put your hand in the hand of a man.
Donny was a husband, a father, a friend, a collaborator, a musician with discipline, training, ambition, and dreams. He was more than the way he died.
Still the water.
Because Donny Hathaway should not only be remembered as a tragedy, he should be remembered as one of the most complete musicians soul music ever produced. The saddest story in 70s soul is not just that Donny Hathaway died at 33. It is that so many people heard the pain in his voice and called it beautiful.
Hey, man, come to see. Yeah.
It is that Someday We'll All Be Free became an anthem, while the man singing it was still searching for freedom inside himself. It is that every Christmas, his voice fills rooms with warmth, while the story behind that voice remains too often left in the cold.
Take a good look at yourself.
But maybe legacy is the final kind of rescue. Because every time someone plays Donny Hathaway and really listens, not as background music, not as nostalgia, but as testimony, the story opens again. The little boy from St. Louis sits back at the piano.
You can look at others differently.
Roberta's voice meets his in the air. The holiday horns begin to rise. And somewhere inside the ache, Donny sings like he is still trying to reach us. Because some voices entertain you, some voices impress you. But Donny Hathaway's voice does something deeper. It remembers for you. It remembers love. It remembers struggle. It remembers the people who were brilliant, wounded, misunderstood, and gone too soon. And when his life was over, he left behind the thing he had been giving us all along. Not just songs, evidence. Evidence that pain can become beauty. Evidence that beauty can outlive the body. Evidence that a man can fall from the world and still leave a voice powerful enough to keep rising.